Storm played their first round matchup against the Washington Mystics. Bel and I were on hand for that. So, Bel, why don't we take a look at that past series against Washington and all the fun that happened over the past 2 games?
Yeah. First game was on August 18th. That was a Storm win, 86-83, a very close Storm win, and that was close throughout the whole game. Our player of the game is Brianna Stewart with 23 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists. Our second player of the game would be Lloyd with 16 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and 12 of her 16 points in the fourth. Now, Jewel had a bit of a dry spell at the beginning of that one, and I wasn't sure if we were going to see her get hot and get some shots up, but she came in at the perfect time and really helped close that out. So, any takeaways that you noticed?
I mean, there were some things that set up for game 2, right? I mean, this is game 1 of the series. Seattle gets the first 2 at home. If you're Washington, you're thinking, hey, we have to force one of the, I mean, if you can come out in game 1 and take it, sets you up even better for potentially sending this game back to Washington for game 3. As you mentioned, Jewel really quiet. I believe she was 0 for 4 or something through the third quarter. And then in that fourth was able to just take over. I mean, if we look at Storm history, even the last 2 seasons, let alone their entire career, Jewel has been very clutch for this team, some buzzer beaters in there, but was really able to take over. I mean, it seemed like everything that first game, anything Seattle did, it was Elena Deladon, just respond. But Jewel Lloyd was able to get out there, get Seattle some buckets when they needed them, and then Seattle was able to get some stops down the stretch. That was playoff basketball in its finest. It was great. But some stuff to note going into the next game, obviously you have to defend EDD much better, and you'd like to see a better start from one of your stars like Jewel.
Yeah, and you could say that both of those definitely did happen. So on the 21st, again against the Mystics, they won once again. This one was a bit more one-sided here, 97-84. Our player of the game was Sue Bird. So this was my choice. I don't know if you completely agreed, but
makes sense.
18 points, 10 assists, 4 rebounds, and I just thought that she came out and realized the intensity that she needed to provide in order for the Storm to close this one out in game 2. So normally I don't think this is what we've seen from Sue during the season. She doesn't need to be the scorer, but in terms of closing out a game, she definitely showed up.
And I'll say this, with Sue, obviously, I mean, the assists are her thing. Great facilitator, great passer. I believe the WNBA assist leader, right? If you don't follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram, CirclingSeattleSports, Twitter, at CirclingSports, we do our point guard matchups for each game. And, with the points per game, each game, it feels like as we've gotten through the end of the season, Sue's points per game go up. And it's interesting to see that because, again, the last few years, not primarily a big score, hasn't been that sort of thing for Sue. It's been Stewie and Jewel.
Right.
And to see that, I think the really important word that you used was intensity. Coach Quinn said at post game or it might have been pregame. One of the press conferences on Sunday was that, Sue's usually the calming presence, usually the one who's got her head on right in the locker room, no matter what. That emotion after hitting that bucket, I think it was a breakaway, and sort of icing it, it was like, she's pumped. And that building from like the third quarter on, it got louder and louder and louder. And I think that final bucket was kind of like the topper.
Yeah.
Put it away.
And that's exactly how she described it. So she did say that was when she realized that the game was pretty much over and they had won. So our second player of the game is Brianna Stewart with 21 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. And Stewie started the game a little bit rough. So her and Jewel kind of switched off there. Jewel was pretty consistent. Yes. Stewie was pretty she was struggling and then picked it up.
First half 0 for 5.
Yeah.
Had the free throws for sure. But yeah, Jewel was, buckets throughout the game, a lot of threes.
Yeah.
Stewie, flirted with the triple-double.
She did.
Only 2 assists away. I think the important quote from Coach Quinn post-game was that whatever we need Stewie to do, she does. But I think for player of the game, like primary honors, that goes to Sue. And before I let you continue forward, I had a friend over the past week. It was Comic-Con, so if you want to call me a nerd, go ahead. Let's do it. But I had a friend in town, one of the artists, actually, I don't know if we can go to my camera here, create an artwork of Sue out of 10. So of course I got number 10 here because, I'm biased. A limited edition, probably out of focus. You get the picture though. But it was just cool to see that Sue was able to, I think you put it perfectly. The intensity is a great word to describe it there. And I mean, Seattle's going to need that down the stretch. I know it's her last year, but her contribution is obviously huge, especially going into this next series with a team that is loaded through the bench.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Ridiculous. So I'll let you get to it.
Moving on to some injury news here. Obviously, we know that Mercedes Russell was out for the season, but she has not made an appearance yet. So she's still out from reoccurring headaches. So we don't know when we'll see Mercedes Russell yet, but hopefully soon. On the 21st against the Mystics, Gabby Williams would leave the game with a concussion. Her recovery timeline is unknown. She did leave in the third quarter with a towel over her head, and it was later reported that she had a concussion. So that's tough for the Storm because Gabby has really been producing in all facets of the court.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully, I mean, Steph did a good job of filling in when Gabby left.
Yeah, it's just Gabby's athleticism, and you talked about it. I believe it was last week's CSS on Converge episode before the Thursday game about coming out with confidence. And what did she do immediately in that game? Come out, I think, one of the media timeouts, 4 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, 2 blocks. Just immediately all over. Not necessarily leading in one thing, but just being able to be sort of the Swiss Army knife of that. So yeah, that'll be huge. I know that we get a few days off between the end of this series and the Vegas series, but yeah, I mean, we'll obviously, once we get updates, we'll try to update you as quick as we can, but concussions can be very different case by case.
Moving on to some team notes here. On the 16th, Brianna Stewart was named AP Player of the Year. So forward Brianna Stewart has been named, of course, the 2022 AP Player of the Year, earned the award for the second time in her career after leading the league and matching a career high with 21.8 points per game. Stewart also earned AP First Team recognition for the third straight season, earning first team recognition in her last 4 eligible seasons after earning second team honors as a rookie in 2016. It is also the second time Stewart has earned the AP WNBA Player of the Year honors, also receiving the award in 2018 prior to being named the 2018 WNBA MVP. She won the AP College Basketball Player of the Year award 3 straight years at UConn from 14 to 16 and has earned the AP's top award 5 times in 8 eligible seasons between college and the WNBA. So some season averages here for Stewie: 21.8 points per game, 7.6 rebounds per game, 2.9 assists per game, 1.6 steals per game, and 0.9 blocks per game. Marked just the second season a player averaged 21 plus points per game, 6 plus rebounds, 2 plus assists, 1 plus steal, and 0.09 plus blocks. The only other player was Stewart during her 2018 WNBA MVP season. Her against herself, I guess. And Brianna Stewart and Lloyd were invited to the 2022 USA Basketball Women's National Team Training Camp.
Before we move on, you just, that all of this, the accolades and all of that, just simply puts it, I think I tweeted that during the 18th game, that you have to appreciate everything that Stewie's doing now, regardless of what happens next year, whether she goes overseas, all that sort of thing. That's not for us to worry about right now. You have to appreciate that, because that blurb on itself, Stewie's an all-timer regardless. But the stat about the averages, the only other player to accomplish that ever doing that was herself 4 years ago. I think MVP, not to be biased, but MVP should be a lock, in my opinion. Asia Wilson is great, but I don't know. So, yeah, that's just my piece on that. But Stewie, obviously, again, Coach Quinn said it. When you're not getting scoring from Stewie, anything that Seattle needs, she can bring it.
Moving on here, of course, for some more news in regard to the Pro-Am and LeBron's visit to Seattle. He did work out with the Mystic players at SPU prior to the playoff game versus the Storm. So one thing that I was confused about, because I was almost certain that he was going to be there to watch the Storm game and support Sue Bird. And so were you surprised that they didn't announce that he was there?
I mean, I know that, after the last regular season home game, when they Seattle packed the CPA for that game, sold it out. He was like, "Oh, Seattle looks lit. I got to get out there." I mean, he did, but I would have liked for him to be at that. That's Braun. That's
Leave it at
Braun
that.
time. Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to back to our Storm here. They currently obviously won the series 2-0. They now are moving on to a 5-game series. So potentially, yes. Best of 3, right?
Best of
of 5 have to win 3.
Correct.
So they'll move on to the semifinals against the Las Vegas Aces. The first game will be the 28th in Las Vegas, of course. They have the home court. And that's a 1 p.m. game and will be shown on ESPN. Game 2 will be August 31st, again at Las Vegas. A 7 p.m. game shown on ESPN2. September 4th versus Las Vegas here at CPA will be a noon game, and that will be shown on ABC. And then again, like you said, if necessary, we move to game 4 and game 5. Game 4 would take place on the 6th. Game 5 would take place on the 8th, and they would split games.
Yeah, so that's important to note. And there's at least one more guaranteed home game here in Seattle. Yeah. But, the last time these two teams faced off in the playoffs was the 2020 Wubble Finals. Seattle wiped the floor with Vegas. Vegas had some injuries. I don't expect that to go the same way. Would it be nice? Sure, right? To have game 3 be the clincher and then we get out of there. But Vegas, the number 1 seed, Seattle, the 4 seed. That's why they're hosting. This is a big deal. I mean, we talked about it. Asia Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young, Kelsey Plum. I didn't mean to rhyme there. Dearica Hamby. There's a lot of talent up and down this roster. And arguably they're the best team in the league. So it's up. Your big 3 is going to need to step up. You're going to need everybody from your bench, and you're going to need probably superwoman performances from Stewie. Jewel Lloyd's going to need to be consistent throughout. Sue Bird will need to bring it as she has been. Tina's been a great paint presence, but that bench, you're going to need that bench. And hopefully Gabby Williams can come back quicker.
We'd need her defensive.
Yeah, you're going to need that versatility defensively and her potential scoring because, we've seen what she can do offensively when she's clicking. So that'll be a big series. So